Here's a very unstructured video. Go up to an NPC, press E, it opens up dialog widget. Press E again, goes through the dialog, you press yes and no. There's a response for yes. Press E again and it finally lets you out. Come back, it stays in there. You can press no this time, no, and it has a different response. Took me a while to figure out how to get the buttons to work. So this is for future me. So we have a HUD blueprint that is creating each widget. So the main game is the crossbar or the crosshair on it, and it'll have like health, ammo, stuff like that. So we create it, get owning player character controller, add it. We're getting the pause menu for if you press M. This is coming from the player character controller, or the first person character controller. If that presses M, then it'll fire off something that toggles it. So we have pause menu, then we have dialogue. We're just adding all these, and we're creating them all, adding them to this array, and then adding everything in the array to the viewport. But by default, everything is being hidden. So there's that. Then we have these events. This one is a bit more involved one, but before I modified it, it was just one saying toggle pause menu, one toggle inventory, which we are calling in the first person character blueprint. So here we have I, and it's getting the HUD, which is this object. This is kind of the master controller of all the widgets. So the first person character is getting the HUD and toggling inventory when they press I, which there's nothing in inventory right now. So there's toggle inventory, and then we do the toggle widget function, and then pause menu with M. Toggle the pause menu. Okay, and then with the dialogue, I'll just go in to, so just ignore this for a bit. Toggle widget. So this is just, I'm not going to explain it, but here's everything right now. Check and see if the target widget we're feeding in, we're feeding in this right here. What we're going to toggle the widget to the thing we've just pressed, but it could be anything. So when this is called, we want the dialog widget blueprint going into the target widget. When this is called, we want the pause menu going into the toggle widget. And this is called the inventory into the target widget. So we're setting the target outside here. And then it's just checking, is the target valid? Cool. If it is, we'll switch to this. So let's prepare to switch to it. This is going to get every widget in the list, and it's going to do a couple things. It's going to turn everything else off. So if the widget to focus is the one that is visible, then we want to remove it now. We're just toggling back and forth. Is the widget to focus already visible? So widget to focus, is it visible? If it is, then we want to focus on the game. And the focus on the game function is just, we're going to set the widget that is in focus, collapse it, set input game mode only, so we have full control over the character again. Mouse cursor, we're going to hide it again, and the main game HUD we're going to put back. And then if the widget that we're trying to focus on is not already visible, then we focus the widget. And this widget is, we get the widget to focus, and we want to set the visibility as recommended. I followed a YouTube video, and I don't remember, neck top or something, I don't remember. Oops. Anyway, so set the visibility, get owning player controller. This is for future me, so this is not going to be a good video for people coming around looking for tutorials. So after we set the visibility to not hit it, but we can still test it, and we're going to set the input mode to game and UI, which still lets us move around, but then we get our mouse back and we can interact with the UI, and we want to show the mouse cursor. So that's how they're going to do any of these things. Focus on the game, focus on the widget. Target, I don't really understand that. Well, anyway, so that's going on. I don't want to cover that, but I wanted to cover it at a very general sense as to how things are being toggled. And we have E to interact. That's not going to bring up the dialog menu yet unless we're in range. We have I, M, and now we can press E. So I wanted to look at the dialogue system. In the NPC blueprint, I could clean this up a bit. I still need to clean it up. So first off, we're going to ignore this for now. It's looking for an interacting thing. So let me say that again. In the first person character, we're checking if we're in the field of the NPC, then we want to send a message. So if we're overlapping any other actors, and they have the implement interface on them, then we're going to send the interact interface message to that object. Yeah, to the actor. So here we go. We've got the signal now because they're in range, and we're getting the in range over here. Man, I'm making no sense over here. Maybe I am. If they're in this range here, we're going to set it to true. They are in range. And they can, that is the first condition right here. Are they in range? If so, then we can go on. We're getting the message. We can do that. Okay. So first off, we are toggling the dialogue in the HUD. So we're getting the reference to the HUD, the HUD blueprint, which is the master controller of everything here. And we're going to toggle the dialogue. And we have something specific for if the dialogue is finished, because we want to basically stop it from closing it if the dialogue is not finished. So once we've reached the end of the array, which we'll get over to here, we're going to flip that to true. It is finished. So it'll come over to here. It's calling this event. Is the dialogue finished? If it's not, then we're going to toggle it once. We're going to toggle this widget once. And if it's true that we are finished, then we're going to skip the do once and we're going to toggle it again off. Okay. So moving over, we're going to toggle it on. Don't allow the conversation to continue if players finish dialogue. So is it finished? No. So we go on and we have a dialogue index. So where in the conversation are we? So we have this over here. Oh, hello. Do you like pancakes? Phew, and oh. These are all the things it can say. And every time we hit E, it's going to add to this. So it starts at -1, and the first time we run it, it's going to add 1, so it'll be start at 0. Ding. If, okay, let's see here. So this is to check to see if the dialogue index that we're on is a question or needs a yes or no response, then it's going to bring up the yes and no stuff. We'll get to that in a bit. So if it's not on a question, we just keep going. We'll come back to the question. If it's before, do you like pancakes? So if it's before the question, we're just going to keep on going. So this is, if we're right on it, then we're going to show the yes or no. And this could be multiple things. But if we're not, so this is before the first question. There's probably a better way to set this up, but whatever. So if we are before the question, then we're just going to keep going. So keep going, and we're just going to get this array of dialogues, and whatever we're going to say, okay, are we on number 1, number 2, and we're going to send that to be a string, and we are getting the HUD. We're getting this. Then we're getting the dialogue widget blueprint from here that we created, and there's a, this variable right here. And then we're getting the dialogue text from that. So let's go in here into the dialogue blueprint, which is this. We are getting this text box, and we're going to set the text to that, to whatever this is. Cool. So what happens if we're on a question? So this time, if it gets to number 1, which is the question, so right here, number 1, do you like pancakes? When it gets to this, we want it to show the yes and no widget. So we go into this, if they click yes and no, if it's yes, then we want it to do the second one, which is this one, few, and then if it's false, we want it to do this one. And then we want to say the dialogue's finished, so then they can't progress through it. This dialogue finish thing is right here. So don't allow the conversation to keep going if it's finished. Basically, there's no code after that. And maybe we could just have it not even show anything up, I don't know, but that is what it is for now. So it's going to check the yes or no button response. If it's this one or this one. So how are we doing that? This is the main thing. And this is right here as well. So if we are on the question index, let's see, so right here, if we're on number 1, do you like pancakes? We want to show the dialogue. So where are we going first? We are getting the main HUD, this controller, and we're getting the dialogue from that, which is this one. And within that, we have a show yes or no function. So going over here, if we go into the graph, we got some functions here. We have show yes no and hide yes no. So I'm going to show the buttons or hide them. Let's see. If we're on a question, we want to show the yes no. So we show it if we are in the question, and when we show it, we want to get a reference to this blueprint, the MPC blueprint, so that we can change this, or we can change this depending on what the response was. So we can bring it back to this. We just have to reference it back. So we're just going to get the self. We're going to set this. We go here into the hood. We get the dialog from there. And then in this dialog, we have this variable, which is the listening MPC. That's what needs to know if we have a yes or a no response. So that is the self. It's always going to be the self that this is in, the MPC. So we're going to stick that in as the listening MPC. Okay, so we're going to set that once we've shown the dialog. So, okay, so let's show the button. So let's look at the button. So on this, we have this widget here. This is actually just a separate widget. So I made this widget, and it's just a vertical box and a yes and a no button. And then I'm just pulling that widget straight into this, so I can hide it and show it, and I can just stretch it, and it's just these two. So I've control to hide it and all that here, but when we show it, that means we can click on it now. So what can we do when we click on it? So we have the yes button and the no button. And then we have this variable that is going to record if we hit yes or no. So that's the yes no button response. So if we click yes, we want to set it to yes. If we click no, we're going to set it to no. And then there's this thing called an event dispatcher, which is new to me. So it has the message thing similar to the blueprint interfaces. This can output a signal saying that the button has been pressed. So basically, come over here, you add it, call it whatever you want, and then if you want to call that, you just type in yes, no, button response, and then you have this call. And I haven't messed around with anything else yet, but all I've needed so far is call. So we call it out, and this is just a debug thing. We don't need to worry about that. In fact, we can actually just get rid of that now. Compile it. So now we're sending out a signal that a button's been pressed. We send it to the dialog blueprint. Because then we can like hide it or show it again. Once it's been pressed, we just want to hide the buttons. So in the graph, we have show and hide, which is just setting the visibility. But then up here, we have a couple things going on. So first off, when the dialog is made, we want the yes and no to be hidden by default. So I'm just doing that here instead of hiding it here, so I can still see it when I'm editing it. So first thing we're doing when we start this graph is hiding the yes and the no buttons. Then next, let's see, bind event to yes. Okay, so when we get a signal saying that it's been pressed, we want to bind an event to it. And I think you can just type in like the yes, no button pressed. Yes, no. Oh, I think, yeah, okay, we have to get the widget blueprint first. And then we can drag from that and say bind event to yes, no button pressed. Great. So when we get that, it's like, well, what event do we want to bind to it? So we're going to make a new custom event. We're going to call it yes, no button pressed. And when we do this, we basically just want to send off the blueprint interface message to, we want the blueprint interface to send a message back to the MPC about what the answer is. So first off, when it's pressed, we're going to hide the buttons after we've got a response. And then, I wonder actually, instead of getting this, I wonder if I can like add an input to this. It doesn't look like it. You might be able to, but I don't know. But right now, we are calling it, we're hiding it, and then we're just going to get, we're setting this yes or no button response. Is it yes or is it no? After we've clicked it and we send it, then we have a set value or variable. So we're going to grab that from the yes and no widget blueprint, and then we're going to grab that yes no button response variable, and we're going to plug this into this. This is a blueprint interaction thing. So this is a blueprint interface, and I made a new one. Yes or no has been pressed. That's going to send the message back to the MPC. But I had to add an input that says yes or no. And that, so when we call it, when we want to send a message, we're going to attach if it was a yes or no to it. And then wherever we send that message is going to have that attached. So that gives us this. Who are we going to send it to, or what we're going to send it to? The listening MPC, which we made the variable in here. Like what is the MPC that we're sending this to? And in here, we're setting the listening MPC of the dialogue from the MPC. So it's like, yep, this is us. So yes or no has been pressed. The target is the MPC that we set when we called this, and we're getting the response of the button. Seems like such a workaround. Okay, and then finally, seems like such a hack. Okay, then lastly, now what? Okay, so we send the blueprint interface back to the sphere, the MPC. So here's what this is. So it's going to run the same code as if I pressed E, because I want to click a button and I want to have the text update. So we just search for this this event, the blueprint interface. And I don't know if this is, well, I don't know. I'm just storing the variable in like a local variable. I'm storing the button press in a local variable. So I set that and then we just run along with the code. But this time, it's checking for when it goes, it's at the question now. So it's going to check this code. And is the response that we just set a yes or a no? And then we're going to finish it after it's done that and then send the answer off. And when it's finished, we've checked it. This dialog is finished, so it can't run all this, it can't add to anything. And we're feeding the dialog finished. Like as soon as we interact with it, we're toggling the dialog, but now we're toggling it with the dialog finished. So what's it going to do? Right here, where we're calling toggle dialog, if it's true, we're not just going to toggle it once anymore. We finally get to toggle it one more time. So true, it is finished. So we're going to toggle this again. So here we go, E, pressing E again. It's not toggling off this time, it's just skipping through it. Do you like pancakes? Yes. Phew. Press E, it toggles off. Press E again, or let's go back and do it again. E. Do you like pancakes? No. Oh. And now we can attach whatever we want with it. And maybe just not have it bring up the talking dialogue if it's reached the end. We could probably do that. Like, probably here. Probably another if statement. Event interact, and we'll say like ready to talk or something like that. Say dialogue finished, maybe we just use that too. Maybe another one that says ready to talk, I don't know. So then it won't trigger again. But anyway, there is that system. The big takeaways for me was in the button that we made, this. The big takeaway was doing this call yes no button press thing. We get the yes, we get the no. This might not even be necessary, but I'm learning it. So this is what I've figured out so far. If you have any suggestions with any of this, then please let me know. Just do it in a very understandable way. So we needed to use an event dispatcher to call this. Then in this, we just wanted to tell the parent that it's been pressed. So using this bind event from the yes no widget blueprint, bind event to yes or no button pressed. And when the button's pressed, we want to send a message to the blueprint interface while attaching what we just pressed, I guess. So setting that up here, adding an input, and then in the sphere we just call that and then set it to whatever, or just use this directly. Okay, so that's it. Figuring out the most basic things, it feels like such a hack, but I think this is the way it works. Until I figure out a better solution or something. All right. Peace.